wasn't a real good clap. 3, 2, 1. There. Now we heard it.
Yeah, you swatting flies or what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're back to Defluenced. Last episode we were talking about the Web3 Identity Crisis. We're still going to continue on this because this post is super huge.
And it's super good.
Yes,
yeah,
it
we're
is.
talking. We're talking about the article "Fundamental Insights from Fundamental Labs" at Substack. It's called "Web3 Social: A Booming Space with an Identity Crisis," and that's at Fundamental Labs, Substack.com.
Yep. And we are down to the part where it's talking about what is Web3. And basically, the history of the internet is Web 1 was read only with, web hosted content. People can consume the content, but they can't share it. It's just there. Go read it.
Yeah, exactly right. And Web 2 was the read writer. That's the era that we're in now, where the web enables user participation. It's interactive. You can comment on others' posts. You can respond to their comments, and it's a much more interactive. And that's the phase that we're currently in.
Yep. And then now Web 3 is going to be read, write, own. It's going to be built on peer-to-peer networks, enabling interoperability, which is the ability of different applications to connect with each other and communicate in a coordinated way.
Yeah, I like these very simple definitions. One word about the Web 1 era. We're talking about the 90s here, basically from 1990 to around 97, 98, when social media started to rear its head. One thing that happened during that Web 1 era was early advertising started taking root, and they had these things called web rings, where you could have like a display ad and you could click on it and it would jump you over to another website, and it was like a ring of websites that you could just bounce between, but it was still read only. You couldn't interact with the sites or anything, but that was an interesting feature of Web 1. Those quickly died as soon as Web 3 started showing up, or Web 2 started showing up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I remember the web rings. That was back when everybody wanted to link with everybody else, try to keep everybody in house type thing.
Yeah, because basically Web 1, you could do two things. You could show up, you could read the content, and if you were a website builder, if you had your own website, then you could link to other websites. And that was essentially what the early web was. It was simply a collection of websites that were linked together in some way. And it grew. It started out with one website in 1999, and then by 1991, had one website, and by 1993 there were like 3,000. Yeah, and then it just flourished from there.
Yeah, and then it was MySpace, Facebook.
Yeah, and that's the Web 2 era. So the first social media website was 6 Degrees in 1997, and then you had Friendster and you had a few others pop up.
Friendster, I'd forgotten about that one.
Yeah. So it was pretty popular back in the day, and right around 2000, when the dot-com bust exploded and everybody started running for the hills, the internet investors started running for the hills because they were losing their money, losing their shirts on bad business models, and that kind of transformed the web, that event itself, because it taught a lot of people a lot of lessons about internet business and what people wanted, what they didn't want, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it gave rise to Web 2.
Yep. And now here in Web 2, they figured out how to turn people's identity into the product. And
Yeah, that's the brilliance of Web 2. And essentially, it's not really a new business model, to
no,
be
it's not.
honest with you. It's the same business model that TV and radio were built on. So you provide the programming for free. So you turn on the radio, you can listen to music, you can listen to a talk show, you can whatever, but it's paid for by sponsors, the advertisers, and they pay for they sponsor those programs because they want access to the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And the same model on TV. So you go in your living room, you flip on channel 8 or 11 or whatever, and you watch your favorite shows, and every 12 minutes or so, you get an ad thrown in your face. A good 30 minutes
8 minutes
a
now.
word from our sponsor. Yeah, every 8 minutes now. So, and that was the business model. So free content sponsored by advertisers who wanted to get their product in front of your eyeballs.
Mm-hmm. And
that's what Web 2 is.
that's what the biggest problem is I think it's the advertising. It's the same old model over
It's
and
the same
over and
old
over.
model.
And
And it really tells you who owns the internet, because if you follow the money trail, it's the sponsors that really dictate the policies of the platforms,
mm-hmm.
because they're not going to put their money on a platform that they can't align themselves with.
And this is what's going to be the hard part for Web3 is that it's not based on advertising that I can tell.
Right.
You know,
Well, yeah, it could eventually morph into that, but at its current stage, what we're looking at is we're looking at real peer-to-peer, decentralized communications. And right now, the platforms have a very strong stance against advertising.
mm-hmm.
And you go to platforms like Hive, you go to platforms like um, uh, Minds. They are not advertising based, and it's very user centric. The question is, how long will it stay that way? And I hope it stays that way for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and for a long time. But you got to get Web 2 people to adopt it. Otherwise, it's just an echo chamber.
Right. The I remember here. It's been within this last year. There was a proposal on Hive to create an advertising campaign, not just for to advertise Hive outside of Web3, but also to bring in advertisers to want to be advertised. It didn't get a lot of support.
Right, because early adopters, they don't. The reason they're there is because they want to get away from the advertising.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to monetize their own content, and they want the platform or the protocol to facilitate their ownership of their data, their assets, their content, including their content assets and their identities. And that's what Web3 is all about.
Yep. Now, if they take out that part about bringing the advertisers to Hive, I'd vote for it because we got to get it out there somewhere so people can see it. But,
yeah, I mean, yeah, and I just saw somebody a couple of days ago write a post on Hive saying somebody should take on being a social media manager and start promoting Hive on Twitter and other Web2 properties, and all that's fine, but what will one social media manager do? You have
mm-hmm.
thousands of users
and
on this platform.
and
Well, why don't they?
150 plus front ends.
Exactly. So why do you need a social media manager when every one of those users can be much more effective in promoting Hive simply
Mm-hmm.
with one tweet each?
Oh yeah.
You get a lot more done. It's decentralized. So know,
And
there's this tendency to say, well, we need one person to spearhead this event. Well, I don't know, maybe not.
nope.
My response to the guy was, well, why don't you take on that role yourself?
Mhm.
Oh, well, people around here don't like me. Well, I wonder why. I mean, come on. It's decentralization. So, why do you want to centralize it?
Exactly. I've always said that the individual dApps should be the ones that promote it, the most outside, because they're wanting people to come use their front end.
Right?
Just don't say anything about Hive. Just
They don't have to. And
like
and
what
and
he thinks he's
Splinterlands
like he thinks he is doing.
Splinterlands has done a great
Splinterhands is
job
doing
at
it.
this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The-
they don't say, "Hey, we're on the Hive blockchain." They promote their product. It's a social gaming product, collectible trading card game, and they've done a very good job of promoting that, both the users and the development team, and they bring people onto the Hive blockchain
yep.
without even mentioning Hive,
Yep.
without even mentioning it.
Yep. Another one that is doing it is Sensi. They don't. They mention that they run on Hive, but that's it. They promote it as a social media platform.
Right.
Hive Pizza does the same thing. They're all about games. A lot. You there for a while. You could buy a Steam game using Hive through Hive Pizza. That was how I bought.
Hive pizza.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's how I bought my American Truck Simulator game on Steam,
Oh,
and
nice.
I love that game. It's fun. It's the only game I play. But
A truck driver, a retired truck driver that plays a truck driver's game.
yeah, imagine that.
I like it.
So he gets into the need for Web3 social, and
Right.
he's talking about guy named Chris Dixon explains the inherent issues of centralized platforms in an article. And centralized platforms follow a pattern that once the platforms hit their reflection points where adoption rate of users and creators are high enough to create strong network effects, the network actors are sacrificed for the growth of platforms.
Yeah. Again, that's pretty common. Web2 didn't invent that business model. That's
No.
been around ever since there have been shareholders. And it happens this way. Anytime you have a company that has shareholders, the company's decision makers, the executives and the people who run the company, they are obligated to make decisions that benefit their shareholders. And the common perception among a lot of people is, well, I'm the customer. I'm right. No, well, no, no, because the company's there to make a profit. And if what you want isn't going to make the company a profit, then they're not going to go with what the customer wants. They're going to go with what the shareholders want. And that's
Exactly.
the business model.
And
Yeah.
these on this article, you guys go check it out. He's got some really great diagrams that puts it into perspective as to better than ever I could do with our whiteboard. So go check this article out. I'd strongly encourage you to go check it out.
Yeah, he does a good job of explaining why Web3 social is necessary and the difference between centralization and decentralization and how decentralization solves the problems of the centralized business model. And I would add to that myself, I am not against centralization in every single instance.
Yeah,
There
I
are
can get
times
that.
when centralization, yeah, times when, I go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac. I don't want to have to wait 3 hours for them to run across the street and get a piece of bread, run over here to get a piece of meat.
Hmm.
Their centralized business model means that I get my food fast.
And
And that's the whole idea.
it also means that a Big Mac in every single town is going to be the same, or
Exactly. So
supposed to be the same.
Yeah, so centralization has its benefits. So I wouldn't denigrate it in every situation, but
Right.
it doesn't solve every problem. And I think decentralization is better equipped to solve some problems that we have, especially the social problems that we have on the internet.
Yep. And then he talks about the social graph. It's a diagram that illustrates interconnections among people, groups, and organizations in a social network. Um, then he talks about the why our identities are siloed. Internet companies that we interact with have their own databases. Data is siloed since the data among those companies are disconnected. In contrast, databases in Web3 can communicate with each other in an open and accessible way.
And in a more
It's,
secure way, I would say too,
yeah.
because I think we all know by now that our data is not secure. So
Mhm.
whatever you're revealing about yourself online, it gets into the hands of Facebook, Twitter, all these social platforms. They can't secure your data.
No, they can't.
It's not that they don't want to; they can't. The technology doesn't facilitate that.
Exactly.
Blockchain technology is a lot more secure. Cryptographic security is much more robust than our current internet security methods. And I have not seen a blockchain get hacked. We hear stories about bridges, blockchain bridges, and
Hmm.
decentralized applications. Those kind of things get hacked. The entry points to the blockchain, they get hacked, but I have not seen a blockchain itself get hacked.
Right. Another another thing that people don't really think of when you've got information on a blockchain, yeah, it is encrypted, but it's also public, so everything can be read. But if somebody was to hack the blockchain, it's got what you put on there already. You don't put your stuff that you want out there about you on the blockchain.
Right.
So if I understand it right, everything in a blockchain is text, plain text. It's not, you can't put videos or audio recordings on the blockchain. You can only link to those files stored someplace else.
Right. They're stored somewhere else. Yeah. Usually,
Right.
with the decentralized platforms, it's usually IPFS or something similar.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and that's a good point because you're not putting your social security number out there for
Hmm.
everybody to see. You're not putting your driver's license out there for everybody to see.
But in Web 2,
And
you are because you're putting it into a database and you're
and
trusting
it's in a
somebody to
server.
keep, yeah, trusting somebody else to keep your private information private until they get hacked. And then they announce 3 years later that they got hacked and your stuff was put out there.
Yeah, and now it's on the dark web being sold for pennies on the dollar, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and that's what Web3 is designed to prevent, those kind of things, and to provide, really, to facilitate more freedom and ownership and control of your data, your identity, and your assets.
Hmm. And he's the next diagram he's got is a brief overview of Web 2 versus Web 3 infrastructure. And the Web 2, it's got all the users, the phone, the computer, computer, tablet, another computer, all linking up to a conglomeration of, six or more servers in the cloud. For Web 3, it's got all these separate things and they're all linked to each other. And it's that, it's like,
Yeah, and
it's like,
it looks like,
that's the way it should be right there.
right. Yeah, it's like a web of different nodes and servers, and they're connected and interconnected, and it resembles the way the early internet was designed.
Hmm. Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah, exactly right. Uh, yeah, so I really like the discussion he has here about the social graph, and a lot of people don't think about what a social graph actually is. Uh, if you think about your real world and the people that you know in your world, you don't have them siloed where okay, I've got my friends over here in this social group, my friends over here in this social group, and my friends over there in that other social group, and they never come together. Usually, at some point, you'll introduce your friends to each other because they're common. The thing they have in common is you. But the way the internet is currently structured, you have your Facebook friends, your Twitter friends, your Instagram friends, and unless they're following you on multiple platforms, the chances of your friends meeting each other is pretty slim. And people have their preferred platforms. So a lot of people have they may be active on Facebook, but they're not on TikTok, or they're not on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a more siloed effect, which in real life your social graph doesn't have that effect at all.
No, I've got between Twitter and Hive and YouTube, Rumble, all the places I'm on currently. It's hard to keep up with all of them and being separate, you know?
Mm. Right.
And that's, what I like the most about Web3. Like for Hive, I can post on any one of them, any one of the front ends, and people who follow me everywhere else will still see it, you know?
Exactly.
And
Right.
I can still see
Uh,
them.
One of the things I appreciate about the whole open social graph thing is uh, the ability to port your data or your information or your friends or whatever, however you want to describe it. Like say for instance on sent pages, uh, I have people that follow me, and I don't know their names, but I have their email addresses because you sign up with your email address, and so they follow me to collect my NFTs. If whatever I share there as my content, they can mint that, and I can see their email, and I can download that contact sheet, and basically I have a list of subscribers for my email newsletter. And so it's portable information. So, and it's all public, so it's not like it's private information, but the email is out there. So that's how you sign up for Sent. I'm all for anonymity if people want that. So if you don't want to join Sent because you don't want to give up your email address, then you have that prerogative. But
You
if
can
you're
always give them a
okay,
throwaway
yeah,
email too.
right. Yeah, I mean, you can use yahoo.yahoo.com, whatever.
Yeah.
Yahoo at yahoo.com. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
some dude, you know. Uh, yeah, that happens. But since I run a business online, I throw my business email out there. It's already public anyways. Who cares? Spam me to death, man. I ignore it anyways.
Spam filters come in handy.
Yep. Yeah. So anyways, the point is, it allows me to port my data, my information, my audience of fans. And if you're an artist, this is very important. You have an audience of fans who follow you, and they're collecting your digital photographs or your pencil drawings of whatever cartoon characters, and they're your fans, and so you can take your fans with you if you leave the platform.
Exactly. Your fans are your fans, not the
That's
not the
right.
platform.
Exactly.
Which is a lot of what I'm seeing is a lot of the problem of people switching from Web 2 to Web 3 is because all my friends are on Facebook and they don't want to try go someplace else because you know I won't have anybody to talk to because my friends are all over on Facebook still.
Get new friends.
Well, my
I'm
point
kidding.
is, well, I'm not. My point is, nobody's going to follow you if you don't. Somebody don't start. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, bring your friends with you. Just like you would to a party. If you're going to a party, and you don't want to go to the party alone, what do? You call your friends. Hey, Sally, I'm going to a party Friday night. You want to go with me? Well, Sally might have a date that night and doesn't want to go to the party, but then you call Kimberly, right? So you take your friends to the party with you.
What's your wife say about these?
Oh, well, she normally goes to the party with me, so she's my one and only friend.
Oh, wow, cool. Now he's
But
talking about the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, that's not really a valid excuse because you can take your friends with you from Facebook to Hive to Twitter, wherever you want to move. You can take your friends with you. If they're real friends, they might want to go.
Mhm.
Unless they've got other plans. I'm sorry, I can't go to Hive right now because I have a date every day of the year for the rest of my life. Yeah. But yeah, take your friends with you. That's the message.
Yep. This Web3 open social stack that he's got this diagram of. He's got the Lego blocks. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I see that. I love Lego.
I like the idea of the Lego. It looks good and kind of makes a little more sense.
Yeah, visuals
But
help you understand it a little better. So I
right,
like he's talking about the different layers of the tech stack. So you've got the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure of the stack. Then you have the middleware, and then you have the social applications, which sit on top of that. And so that would be the Facebook, the Twitter, the Hive, the platforms that sit on the technology. But between that and the underlying technology is the middleware that facilitates that happening. That's what he calls it, the middleware. I
right.
call it the underwear. The middlewares are the underwear. Same difference.
Yeah, yeah. I can get that. This is where he starts getting into the data infrastructure, like ceramic and all that.
Yeah,
The
and talks about what they bring to the table individually. What the data infrastructure contributes to the whole tech stack, and then what the middleware, how that contributes to the tech stack of Web3, and then the social applications or the dApps. And he mentions a few: Orbis, Linster, Stent, which I just mentioned, and the LVL protocol. So he talks about those individually and how they contribute to the tech stack.
right. Now, do you want to go into that next week, or do we want to try to start in on this? Because
Yeah, I think we can get into the individual things next week.
okay,
We can talk about Ceramic Network, for instance, which I haven't used, but we can talk about that, and then the week after that, get into Tableland and some of the others. But I think the important thing for our listeners is that there's a social stack to the open Web3 social graph. And that's
right,
what he's describing here is how that all fits together. And he breaks it down into three different layers.
right. Yeah, we'll get into that next week because I don't have enough coffee yet. Let's talk this week.
Yeah. So he does go into individual applications and discuss those. And I think we can take those one at a time and talk about those and the benefits of those and that kind of thing. So that would keep us busy for a few weeks. But I think it's important to discuss those. So we started off doing sort of a review of the different platforms, and so far all we've done is Hive. But we can use this as a launching pad for getting into some of these other ones that he talks about.
Right. The ceramic one, I believe Speak Network is using that for logging into Speak Network.
Yeah,
I've seen that name thrown about in the Three Speak Discord a lot.
cool.
So I have yet to go try out Speak Network other than claiming the tokens. But
Yeah, well, Three Speaks, it's a part of the Hive ecosystem, and there are others out there. It's one of those front ends, and yeah, we could talk forever about the different Hive applications, but
oh yeah,
Web3 is much broader than Hive.
mm-hmm.
Hive users take great pride in Hive being a leading Web3 platform and Web3 technology, which it is. But Web3 is much larger than that, and
Yes,
I
it
think there
is.
are some other projects out there that are worth talking about.
I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them see eventually one day where you've got just your user and your set of keys, and you can log into no matter what platform it is. Just boom, 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 boom.
I think we're moving in that direction. Um, Web2 has its protocols that facilitate. There's OAuth
Mm-hmm.
and some other ways that you can log into different platforms. Facebook and Twitter each allow you to use your logins for them to get into other applications, and so that happens already in Web 2. Web 3 is not quite there yet, but I think we're moving in that direction.
The two-factor authentication. It's both awesome and cool, but it is annoying when you leave your phone like downstairs and
Oh
you
yeah.
you forget that the site you're logging into is two factors. You're like, oh, gotta go find your phone.
Yeah. Well, I had a problem with 2FA not too long ago, recently, because it was on Facebook. Evidently, at some point, I asked Facebook to implement two-factor authentication for me, but I never authenticated with the Authenticator app, and then I found myself locked out.
Oops.
And so I tried to get back in, but I couldn't because I didn't have it authenticated, and it was asking me to authenticate. And what happened was I ended up that account getting hacked, and Facebook shut it down because it
Oh
was
man.
violating their terms of service, and I couldn't get in to change it.
Damn. That sucks.
I had 5,000 followers on that account, so I
Holy
lost all of those.
cow.
Yeah, so 2FA can work for you or against you. In Web3, I like what we're doing with MetaMask. MetaMask is sort of serving as an OAuth type authentication type of tool where you can connect your wallet to different platforms or websites, and that's how you gain access to them. So that's an interesting approach. It'd be interesting to see how that develops over time and how it's improved.
Yes, it will be. So we are just shy of 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's a
So
good place to end it if you're okay with that.
I'm good. We can't really get into any more of the article without starting in on ceramic and all the other stuff.
Right.
That's going to be it's going to be an episode for each day, each product or
Yeah. So
platform.
you can do a wrap up, I guess, of like a summary if you want to do that, and then invite readers or listeners back to
Absolutely.
hear the rest of it next week.
So we've got the history of Web 1, 2, and 3. It's just hosting content. You can read it. That's it. Share with each.
Yeah, that's Web
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yep. Web 2, you can interact with it, comment, be social type stuff. Web 3 is going to be built on peer-to-peer networks, and the different apps are going to talk to each other. So,
And yeah, it's what they call a read, write, own. So I like these phrases because Web 1, he says read only. Web 2 is read, write.
Yep.
And then Web 3 is read, write, own. And I think that own is a very important part of this. You get to own your audience, own your content, own your data, own your identity. And that's going to be a huge, huge benefit to anyone who migrates to Web 3.
Yep. And it's coming. You're not going to get out of it. You're going to have to join Web 3 eventually.
Exactly. Once the early adopters and the pioneers develop the tactics and the strategies that really make Web 3 robust in the same way that Web 2 currently is, then everyone will come along. Everyone will, just like they came along with Web 2, they're going to come along with Web 3.
Yep.
It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely. So stick around. You can find us on where all the free podcasts are sold. Yeah, you can contact us at podcasts@efluence.online. Find us on
Amen to
Hive.
that.
Yeah, we're everywhere. So there's no excuse.
Yeah, you have no excuse. So anyways, I'm Cryptocracy, and this is Uncle Bonehead. Come back next week.
Yep.
And we'll fill your ears with sweet nothings.
We're going to leave it at that. I ain't going to say stick your finger where you wouldn't stick your face after that. That just wouldn't be right.